James Carter stirred in the pre-dawn stillness of his one-bedroom apartment, the faint glow of streetlights seeping through worn curtains as the city hummed softly beyond the walls. The kitchen clock ticked toward 5:30 a.m., marking the start of a routine carved deep by 7 years of single fatherhood, each motion deliberate, like a dance to keep his world from unraveling. He sliced apples with a steady hand, their crisp scent mingling with the nutty aroma of peanut butter spread on toast for his 10-year-old daughter, Lily, her insulin pen placed beside her plate with the care of a jeweler handling a priceless gem. Lily's diabetes was a constant shadow, its demands shaping their days since her birth stole Emily, his wife, leaving a quiet ache that lingered in the air. James glanced at Emily's framed photo on the bookshelf, her warm smile a silent promise to keep their daughter safe, a beacon in the dim light of their modest home. Lily shuffled in, her dark curls a sleepy tangle, her hazel eyes bright behind slightly crooked glasses as she climbed onto a chair, her voice soft but eager. "Did I get the fractions right, Dad?" James checked her homework, his calloused fingers gentle against the paper, marveling at her precision despite the chaos of their morning rush. "Perfect, kiddo," he said, ruffling her hair. The word carrying a weight beyond math. It was his vow to hold their fragile world together, to be both anchor and sail for Lily. He packed her lunch, double-checking her glucose monitor and emergency insulin, the memory of a late-night hospital run 2 years ago still sharp, her small hand gripping his as monitors beeped. The apartment bore the marks of their life-faint coffee rings on an engineering textbook open to fluid dynamics, a dream James had shelved 3 semesters shy of a degree when life rewrote his plans. He braided Lily's hair, his rough hands surprisingly deft, whispering, "You're gonna ace that science quiz," as she grinned, her trust in him absolute, a balm to the quiet doubts that gnawed at him in the dark. After dropping Lily at school, her backpack bouncing as she waved, James navigated 3 bus transfers to Harper Industries, a logistics giant where glass towers loomed over sprawling warehouses, their sleek surfaces reflecting the morning sun. In his faded gray maintenance uniform, name patch frayed from countless washes, he was a ghost among the bustle, mopping marble floors and tightening loose vents while executives in tailored suits swept past, their voices taut with the weight of a $50 million supply chain crisis. James overheard their urgency-delayed shipments, overloaded European hubs, Asian centers limping at half capacity as he adjusted a flickering light in the lobby, their words painting a puzzle he instinctively understood. In the basement locker room, he exchanged a nod with his coworker, Mike, both men moving with the silent efficiency of those who kept the building's pulse steady, unseen by the corporate machine above. James's day was a rhythm of small fixes, unjamming a copier, recalibrating an vague unit, each task a reminder of his knack for untangling problems, a skill honed in late-night study sessions years ago before grief and responsibility rewrote his path. Cleaning the CEO's office, he glimpsed a logistics chart on Sarah Mitchell's desk, its nodes and lines a familiar language from his unfinished engineering days, whispering of routes and flows. A misaligned connection jumped out, a subtle error that could spiral into the chaos he'd overheard, like a clogged artery in a living system. His mind raced, piecing together the flaws impact empty trucks, delayed deliveries, millions bleeding away, but he swallowed the urge to speak, his role as maintenance man a silent boundary. Who would listen to the guy with a mop? As he pushed his cleaning cart through gleaming hallways, avoiding the rush of executives heading to emergency meetings, the chart lingered in his thoughts, a spark of insight trapped behind his gray uniform. Back home that evening, Lily's chatter about her science project filled the apartment, her hands waving as she described efficient systems, her enthusiasm mirroring James's buried passion. He knelt beside her, helping arrange colored strings on a poster board, their laughter a fleeting escape from the weight of his unseen potential. The textbook on the counter, stained and dog-eared, called to him as Lily slept, its pages a reminder of a life he might have lived, a life he still dreamed of in the quiet moments. At Harper, he was invisible, but here, with Lily's faith in him, he was everything: a father, a fixer, a man with answers no one thought to seek. The tension between who he was and who he might be tightened like a knot, waiting for a chance to unravel. Sarah Mitchell strode into the boardroom of Harper Industries, her tailored navy suit a sharp contrast to the chaos unfolding on the projection screens, where red lines traced a $50 million supply chain collapse that threatened the company's survival. At 40, she carried the weight of her CEO title with a steely grace. Her dark hair swept into a tight bun that mirrored her relentless focus, though her green eyes betrayed a flicker of exhaustion from sleepless nights wrestling with the crisis. The room buzzed with executives shouting over each other. Their proposed solutions were routing European hubs, outsourcing to third-party carriers, crumbling under scrutiny as losses mounted. James Carter, nearly invisible in his gray maintenance uniform, slipped into the room to adjust a malfunctioning projector, his presence unnoticed by the suits arguing over spreadsheets and logistics models. As he aligned the lens, his eyes caught the screen's map of distribution routes, the same flawed pattern he'd glimpsed in Sarah's office, and he muttered under his breath, "They've got the hubs linked wrong." Sarah's head snapped toward him, her voice cutting through the din. "What did you say?" James froze, his heart pounding as every eye turned to him, the maintenance man who dared to speak. He cleared his throat, gripping the screwdriver in his pocket like a lifeline, and repeated, "The distribution hubs are linked wrong. It's choking the system." The room fell silent, the air thick with disbelief, as the CFO, Richard Holt, scoffed. "And you're an expert in logistics now?" Sarah raised a hand, silencing him, her gaze locking onto James with an intensity that made him feel seen for the first time in 7 years at Harper. "Explain," she demanded, her tone sharp but curious. A lifeline thrown to a drowning company. James hesitated, the weight of his invisible role pressing against the engineering knowledge he'd buried since Emily's death. But he pointed to the screen, his voice steadying as he traced the routes. "You're prioritizing regional clusters, but the hubs aren't balanced for load type or urgency. It's like sending empty trucks back while others are overloaded. If you realign based on inventory and demand, you cut the delays." The executives exchanged glances, some smirking, others intrigued. But Sarah's expression shifted, a spark of recognition in her eyes. She'd been searching for a breakthrough, and this unassuming man might hold it. Flashbacks cut through her mind as she studied him, her climb to CEO, the late nights at business school, the family gatherings she'd skipped, the Christmas cards from her sister's family that sat unanswered on her desk. Success had built a wall between her and the world, leaving her alone in a corner office with only the city's skyline for company. James, meanwhile, returned to his routine, mopping the lobby as executives streamed past, their dismissal of him as palpable as the polish on the marble floors. At home, Lily's laughter filled their small apartment, her science project sprawling across the dining table, a colorful array of strings and markers mapping an efficient delivery system that unknowingly echoed Harper's crisis. "If the trucks go here first, it's faster, right, Dad?" she asked, her fingers tracing paths with a precision that made James's chest ache with pride. He nodded, kneeling beside her, his maintenance world fading as he explained flow optimization in terms a 10-year-old could grasp, his voice soft but alive with the passion he'd suppressed at work. The contrast was stark here. His ideas were celebrated. At Harper, they were unthinkable from a man in a gray uniform. Sarah, alone in her office that evening, stared at a photo of her parents at her graduation, their proud smiles a reminder of the sacrifices she'd made to reach this point. the personal connections she'd let fray. Her phone buzzed with another crisis alert, another hub reporting delays, and she sighed, the weight of the company's future pressing heavier. James's words lingered in her mind, an anomaly she couldn't dismiss. Though her team's skepticism echoed in her thoughts, could a maintenance worker really see what her analysts with their Ivy League degrees had missed? The next day, as James fixed a coffee machine in the break room, he overheard two managers discussing the crisis, their frustration mirroring the boardroom's chaos. "We're bleeding millions, and no one can figure out why," one muttered, unaware of James listening as he tightened a valve. The pieces clicked in his mind, the same pattern he'd seen in the chart, but he pushed the thought down, his role as the invisible fixer too ingrained. At home, Lily's voice broke through his quiet doubts as they worked on her project, her eyes bright with curiosity. "You always tell me to raise my hand when I know the answer, Dad. Why don't you do that at work?" Her words, so simple and direct, struck him like a jolt, stirring the courage he buried under years of routine. Sarah, meanwhile, sat through another failed strategy session, the boardroom's tension palpable as solutions fell apart. She recalled James's certainty, the way his rough hands had pointed to the screen with quiet confidence, and made a decision that could either save Harper or mark her downfall. She tracked him down in the maintenance closet, surrounded by tools and spare parts, and said, "I want you to present your idea to the board tomorrow." James blinked, his pulse racing, the weight of her trust both thrilling and terrifying. He thought of Lily, of the stability he'd fought to maintain, and nodded, his voice barely above a whisper, "I'll try." As Sarah walked away, her heels clicking on the tile, she felt a flicker of hope, a rare crack in her polished armor, wondering if this unlikely ally could bridge the gap between her world and the answers she'd overlooked. James Carter stood in his cramped apartment, the dim glow of a single lamp casting shadows over the dining table where Lily's science project sprawled, a tangle of colored strings and markers that mirrored the logistics puzzle haunting Harper Industries. His heart raced as he stared at a blank sheet of graph paper, the weight of Sarah Mitchell's request pressing down. He was to present his solution to the board tomorrow, a chance to prove the insight he'd whispered in the boardroom wasn't a fluke. The maintenance man, invisible for 7 years, was being asked to step into a spotlight he'd never sought, and doubt gnawed at him, whispering he was out of his depth, a fraud in a gray uniform daring to challenge executives with advanced degrees. Lily, perched on a chair with her glasses slipping down her nose, sensed his hesitation and tugged at his sleeve, her voice bright with unshakable faith. "You always tell me to raise my hand when I know the answer, Dad, like at school when I solved that fraction puzzle everyone else got wrong. You know this, don't you?" Her words, echoing her earlier challenge, cut through his fear, reminding him of the nights he'd explained engineering concepts to her, simplifying complex systems into stories of trucks and routes she could grasp. James knelt beside her, his calloused hands steadying as he smiled. "You're right, kiddo. I'll raise my hand this time." He spent the evening sketching, his pencil moving with growing confidence, translating the flawed logistics chart he'd glimpsed into a streamlined system prioritizing load efficiency over regional boundaries, concepts from his unfinished degree flowing back like a rediscovered language. Each line on the paper felt like a bridge between the man he was and the one he might have been, had Emily's death not redirected his path. The memory of her laughter, soft and warm during late-night study sessions, fueled him as he worked. Lily dozing nearby with her head on the table, her trust his anchor. At Harper Industries, Sarah Mitchell paced her corner office, the city's lights glittering beyond her window, a stark contrast to the turmoil within. The $50 million crisis loomed larger, clients threatening to walk, and her team's solutions had fizzled one by one, leaving her to stake her reputation on a maintenance worker's untested idea. She recalled her own climb, the years of proving herself in boardrooms where her gender invited scrutiny, the personal sacrifices missed. Birthdays, her sister's calls left unanswered, that left her office a shrine to success, but not to connection. James's quiet certainty in the boardroom had stirred something in her, a reminder of the intuition she'd once trusted before corporate politics dulled it. She glanced at a photo on her desk, her sister's family smiling around a Christmas tree, and felt a pang of isolation, wondering if this gamble on James was a reach for redemption as much as salvation for Harper. The next morning, James arrived at work, his diagram neatly folded in his pocket, his work boots feeling heavier as he navigated the glass-walled headquarters. He fixed a jammed printer in the copy room, overhearing executives murmur about the maintenance guy's stunt, their skepticism a familiar sting, but Sarah's trust kept him grounded. She found him in the hallway, her sharp gaze softening as she said, "Be clear, be honest, and don't let them intimidate you. We need what you see." Her words carried a warmth that surprised him, a glimpse of the woman behind the CEO's armor. That weekend, with no sitter available, James brought Lily to Harper, setting her up in the break room with books and her glucose monitor, strict instructions to call if she felt shaky. Sarah, working through the crisis, entered for coffee and found Lily struggling with a math problem, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Need a hand?" Sarah asked, her professional edge melting as she sat beside the girl, guiding her through the problem with a patience she rarely showed in boardrooms. Lily's chatter about her dad's truck map spilled out, her pride in him infectious. And Sarah listened, struck by the parallel between Lily's project and the company's crisis. When James returned, panic flashing in his eyes at seeing Lily with the CEO, Sarah waved it off. "She's fine, James. She's got your mind for systems." The moment lingered, a quiet bridge between their worlds, as Lily showed Sarah her project, a colorful model of efficient delivery routes. Sarah's laugh, rare and genuine, echoed as Lily explained her logic, and James saw a flicker of the connection Sarah craved but rarely admitted. Back home, James refined his diagram, Lily's encouragement echoing in his mind, her simple faith bolstering his resolve. Sarah, in her office, reviewed the same data that had baffled her team, her thoughts drifting to James's unpolished clarity, a perspective untainted by corporate blind spots. The risk of elevating him was high, but so was the cost of inaction, and she felt an unfamiliar hope, a belief that answers could come from unexpected places. As James tucked Lily into bed, her sleepy voice murmured, "You're gonna fix it, Dad, like you fix everything." He kissed her forehead, the weight of tomorrow's presentation heavy but no longer crushing, his daughter's belief a spark that lit the path forward. James Carter stood at the head of Harper Industries' boardroom, his palms damp as he clutched his meticulously drawn diagram. The crisp lines of his solution, a stark contrast to the faded gray of his maintenance uniform, which he'd worn despite Sarah Mitchell's suggestion to borrow a suit. The room buzzed with the weight of a $50 million crisis. Executives in tailored jackets leaning forward, their faces a mix of curiosity and thinly veiled scorn, as James, the maintenance man, prepared to address the board. Sarah sat at the far end, her green eyes steady, offering a nod that anchored him against the tide of doubt threatening to pull him under. His heart pounded, each beat echoing Lily's words from the night before. "You know the answer, Dad. Just like you taught me to speak up." Her faith a lifeline as he faced the CFO, Richard Holt, whose smirk dripped with condescension. "So, enlighten." "U.S., Carter," Holt said, leaning back in his leather chair. "How does a janitor fix what our analysts couldn't?" James swallowed, his fingers tracing the diagram's edges, and began, his voice low but clear. "Your system's built backward. You're grouping deliveries by region, not load efficiency. So trucks run empty half the time while hubs choke on overflow. He pointed to his diagram, projected on the screen. It's hub-based routing, a simple shift that could unravel the chaos. The room stilled, Holt's smirk faltering as James walked them through the logic. His words grounded in the engineering principles he'd studied years ago, before Emily's death forced him to trade textbooks for a mop. He spoke of flow, of balancing inventory with demand, his voice gaining strength as he saw Sarah's subtle nod, her trust a shield against the room's skepticism. Flashbacks flickered in his mind nights spent explaining systems to Lily, her wide-eyed questions sharpening his own understanding, and the hospital room where he'd held her tiny hand, vowing never to fail her. The stakes felt personal now, not just for Harper, but for the life he wanted for his daughter, one where she could dream beyond their modest apartment. Sarah watched, her own thoughts churning, recalling her first boardroom battles, where she fought to be heard as a woman in a sea of suits, her competence questioned until results silenced the doubters. James's clarity, unpolished but undeniable, stirred that same instinct in her, a belief that truth could outweigh titles. She interrupted Holt's attempt to dismiss James, her voice cutting sharp. Let him finish. We've tried your models, Richard, and they failed. James pressed on, detailing how rerouting based on load type could cut empty miles by 20%. His hand steady now, the diagram a map of possibility. When the board agreed to a test run in the Northwest Corridor, the operations center hummed with urgency, analysts inputting James's model as he and Sarah stood side by side, their shoulders brushing as they watched the screens flicker with real-time data. Within hours, the results glowed 15% fewer delays. They projected $10 million in savings for the quarter, and the room erupted in stunned murmurs, Holt's face paling as his objections crumbled. James felt a rush of validation, but doubt lingered. The fear that this was a fluke, that he'd overstepped into a world that would spit him out. Sarah sensed it, leaning close as the analysts worked, her voice low. If this holds, James, you've changed everything. Her words, meant to reassure, carried a weight she hadn't expected, a crack in her polished facade revealing the pressure she carried alone. That evening, alone in her office, Sarah stared at the city skyline, the weight of her gamble settling. In backing James could save Harper or mark her as reckless, a female CEO who couldn't afford mistakes. She thought of her sister's unanswered letters, the family she'd pushed away for this role, and saw a parallel in James's quiet sacrifice. His dreams deferred for Lily. Back at home, James tucked Lily into bed, her sleepy question piercing him. Did you fix the trucks, Dad? He kissed her forehead, whispering, We're getting there. But the boardroom's tension clung to him, the memory of Holt's sneer mingling with Sarah's trust. The test run's success grew over days, efficiency climbing to 20%, and Sarah made a bold call, announcing James would oversee a full rollout. Holt protested. He's not qualified. But Sarah's voice was iron. He's the only one who's been right. James, reeling from the shift, thought of Lily's future dance lessons. A computer, maybe college, and felt the ground tilt beneath him. Sarah, watching him navigate the corporate maze, saw her own younger self, fighting to be seen, and felt an unexpected pull, a connection beyond the crisis. As they reviewed data late into the night, their conversation drifted from logistics to Lily's science project, Sarah's laughter surprising them both, a fleeting bridge between their worlds. James's courage, sparked by his daughter and fueled by Sarah's belief, had turned a whisper into a roar, but the path ahead loomed uncertain, his place in this new world untested. James Carter sat in a small conference room at Harper Industries, the fluorescent lights casting a sterile glow over a laptop screen where his logistics model now drove a company-wide transformation, a far cry from the maintenance closet where he'd once sketched on napkins. Sarah Mitchell's offer echoed in his mind, a permanent role as logistics innovation specialist, with a salary that could mean dance lessons for Lily, a new computer, even a college fund, yet the weight of leaving his familiar world of wrenches and mops made his stomach twist. He adjusted his new tie, a gift from Sarah with a note that read, "For the man who rewrote our future," and felt the unfamiliar fabric against his calloused hands, a symbol of the bridge he was crossing. The past weeks had been a whirlwind. His solution, now fully implemented, had slashed empty truck miles by 22%, saving Harper millions. And the boardroom skepticism had given way to grudging respect, though Richard Holt's sidelong glances still stung. Sarah, standing beside him during late-night data reviews, had become an unexpected ally, her sharp edges softening as they pored over graphs. Their laughter over a shared coffee spill breaking the tension of their high-stakes work. She'd coached him through his first executive presentation. Her advice, simple talk, like you're explaining it to Lily, and he'd found his voice, clear and steady, as he demystified the system for analysts who'd once ignored him. At home, Lily's pride lit up their apartment. Her science project, a vibrant model of Harper's new delivery routes, winning first place at school. Her gap-toothed grin, a mirror of James's quiet triumph. Yet, he wrestled with the change. The fear that a corporate role might disrupt the routine that kept Lily's diabetes manageable, her life stable. Sarah, sensing his hesitation, had promised flexibility. "We'll work around Lily's needs. James, Harper owes you that much." Her words carried a warmth that reached beyond the office, stirring memories of her sitting with Lily in the break room, helping with math homework and laughing over her chatter about Dad's truck maps. That moment had shifted something in Sarah, too. She'd begun calling her sister, mending years of distance, prompted by Lily's unguarded affection and James's quiet devotion. One afternoon, Lily visited Harper when school let out early, her backpack stuffed with markers and a new project idea for a company daycare. And Sarah, shedding her suit jacket, joined her on the floor, piecing together a puzzle of colorful blocks. "You're good at this," Lily said, her glasses slipping as she beamed, and Sarah's rare smile lit the room, drawing curious glances from passing employees unused to their CEO's warmth. James watched, his heart swelling at the sight of his daughter connecting with the woman who'd seen his potential, a bridge forming between their worlds. Sarah proposed the daycare idea to the board, crediting Lily's vision, and James saw her eyes soften as she spoke of valuing every perspective, a nod to his own rise. At home, James cooked Emily's spaghetti recipe, the familiar rhythm grounding him as Lily set the table, chattering about her day. The doorbell rang, and Sarah stood there, casual in jeans and a sweater, holding a folder of Lily's daycare sketches. "I thought we could brainstorm," she said, her usual polish replaced by a tentative warmth, as if testing this new connection. Lily tugged her inside, insisting she try Dad's world-famous spaghetti, and Sarah laughed, her guard dropping completely as she sat at their one table, listening to Lily's ideas with genuine interest. James caught her eye, their shared glance, holding a question about what this moment meant: colleagues, friends, or something unspoken, and his answering smile was an invitation to find out. Sarah's presence in their home felt natural, her laughter mingling with Lily's as they pored over sketches, planning a space for employees' kids that could change lives like theirs. James saw his own sacrifices reflected in Sarah's solitude, her admission that success had cost her connections, and felt a pull to bridge that gap too. At Harper, James navigated his new role, stumbling through corporate jargon, but finding his footing with Sarah's guidance. Her patience revealing a side she rarely showed the board. He fixed a projector between meetings, old habits lingering, and Sarah found him smiling. "Some things don't change." He nodded. Some shouldn't, and their shared understanding deepened, rooted in the crisis they'd faced together. Lily's school project, now displayed in Harper's lobby, became a symbol of their shared ingenuity. And Sarah's push for a hidden talent initiative, seeking insights from all levels, echoed James's journey. As he dropped Lily at school, her insulin pen secure in his pocket, he felt the weight of his old life lifting, replaced by a future where he could be both father and innovator. Sarah, leaving a voicemail for her sister to plan a visit, felt her own walls crumble, inspired by James's courage and Lily's light. Their worlds, once divided by hierarchy, were intertwining, each step forward a testament to seeing the unseen. James Carter stood in the newly opened Harper Industries Children's Center, the former storage room now alive with bright murals, learning stations, and the hum of children's laughter, a space born from Lily's sketches and Sarah Mitchell's vision, a testament to their unlikely partnership that had saved the company $45 million. The air smelled of fresh paint and crayons as Lily, her glasses glinting under the soft lights, proudly showed off her science project, a vibrant model of Harper's optimized delivery system, its color-coded strings weaving a story of efficiency that mirrored her father's triumph. James, in business casual, but with his trusty multi-tool still tucked in his pocket, watched her with a quiet pride, his heart full as she explained her model to a small crowd of employees and investors, her confidence a spark he'd nurtured through years of bedtime stories and late-night homework. The logistics system he'd designed now ran seamlessly across Harper's global network, slashing costs and boosting on-time deliveries by 25%, earning him a permanent role as logistics innovation specialist and a newfound respect from colleagues who once overlooked him. Sarah, her usual severe bun replaced by loose waves for the occasion, stood beside him, her smile warm as she addressed the crowd. This center, inspired by Lily Carter and our new talent initiative, inspired by James, prove that the best ideas don't come from titles, they come from people. Her words carried a weight that reached beyond the room, a nod to the journey that had transformed them both. James thought back to the boardroom where he'd stood, trembling but resolute, his diagram silencing skeptics like Richard Holt, whose grudging nod at the final presentation had marked a shift in Harper's culture. Sarah's hidden talent initiative was now policy, inviting insights from every level. And James, once invisible, was sought for his perspective on projects beyond logistics, his voice carrying weight in rooms he'd once mopped. At home, their apartment felt brighter. New bookshelves lined with engineering texts and Lily's science kits, funded by James's new salary, a promise of possibilities he'd never dared dream for her dance lessons, a laptop, a college fund. Lily's diabetes was managed with ease, her medication now covered by Harper's premium health plan, a relief that let James breathe deeper, the memory of frantic hospital nights fading. Sarah's own transformation was quieter but profound. She'd spent a weekend with her sister's family, laughing over old photos and promising regular calls, her solitude easing as she embraced the connection she'd long pushed aside. Lily had become a bridge between them, her visits to Harper a highlight for Sarah, who'd taken to mentoring her. Their puzzle-solving sessions in the CEO's office, a ritual that softened Sarah's edges and drew rare smiles from staff. One evening, as James stirred Emily's pasta sauce, the doorbell rang, and Sarah appeared, holding a stack of Lily's latest daycare designs, her casual sweater a far cry from her executive armor. "I thought we could plan the center's expansion," she said, her voice tentative but warm, and Lily pulled her to the table, insisting she stay for dinner. The meal was simple, but the laughter that filled the room, Lily's giggles, Sarah's easy banter felt like a new kind of home, a space where James's past and present reconciled. He caught Sarah's eye as she helped Lily sketch, their shared glance holding a quiet understanding, a possibility of dinners beyond this one, of a friendship that might grow into something more. At Harper, the Children's Center buzzed daily, a recruitment draw for working parents, its walls adorned with Lily's recycled material models, a symbol of her ingenuity and James's legacy. During the final presentation, confirming the $45 million savings, James stood before the board. No longer trembling, his tie a quiet reminder of Sarah's faith in him. The applause was warm, but he slipped away afterward, fixing a flickering light in the hallway, the familiar task grounding him amid the accolades. Sarah found him, her laugh soft. "Still fixing things?" He grinned, closing the panel. Some habits stick. She leaned against the wall, her voice thoughtful. "You've fixed more than lights, James. You've changed how we see each other." The words lingered, a recognition of the connections they built, not just in systems, but in hearts. Lily, now a regular at the center, showed Sarah her latest project, a model optimizing the daycare's toy-sharing system, and Sarah's laughter echoed. Innovation runs in the family. Later, as James and Lily walked home under the city's twinkling lights, she squeezed his hand. "You did it, Dad. You made everything better." He looked down at her, then back at Sarah, who joined them for the walk, her presence a quiet promise of new beginnings. The spark James had carried, once hidden, had ignited a future where he and Lily could thrive, where Sarah found connection, and where Harper saw value in every voice.